vaccines are the only certainty. Will 20% of people of society? Yes, I have made it on my own in this world. Will not take care of time around a 2-year-old. I'm gonna start the old nation and do my own thing, 'cause I will be king. I'm gonna start the old nation with myself for preservation. I'm gonna start the old nation with myself for preservation. Well, let me talk a bit about the weather. You must admit it's not very clever. Don't get me wrong, it's not an anti-British song. Well, there is nowhere I would rather be wrong. I'm gonna start my own nation and do my own thing, and I will be king. I'm gonna start my own nation with myself for preservation. I'm gonna start my own nation with myself for preservation. There are just a few things that I would like to say about the UK and how I think it has gone astray. Don't get me wrong, it ain't all bad. I love the crazy fads, like England always buckling up, but you know we're gonna win the World Cup. I'm gonna start the old nation with myself for preservation. I'm gonna start the old nation with myself for preservation.
Keep the red flag flying here.
And welcome everybody to the 34th edition of Political Unmuted. I have to tell you that Wikipedia assures me that 34 is the number that symbolizes optimism, analysis, self-expression, introspection and pragmatism. And if 34 is the number of your destiny, you are a very wise, spiritual and intuitive person. And therefore, can only assume that, in fact, the number 34 is the number of destiny of all the people in front of me tonight, because we welcome the dream team, of wonderful people who hopefully are going to tell you things that you hadn't thought before. We welcome back Stuart, who was poorly last week.
Yeah, I was. I got my vaccine. I had some side effects, but back to fighting fit now.
That's it. Well, hello to you. A bit of a break up on your sound there, Paul. Welcome to you. Welcome to the team. And it's time. Now, I never tell you my moments of the week. I always go to my dream team, but in fact, I've had 2 moments this week, and they both happened on Sunday. And the first one is that I got my jab, okay, which is exciting in itself, and they were wonderful. But just to warn you all, including the team, this is the first time I've told them as well, I'm not feeling right sort of energetic at the moment. I'm feeling a bit meh is the word, and sort of, so if I'm off color a bit tonight, sort of not my language hopefully, but if I'm not on top form tonight, I hope that you will forgive me, and I'm relying on your team to step in with additional enthusiasm, so in case I fall asleep in the chair here. I've dosed myself up with paracetamol. But the second thing is much more exciting, and I wonder if I can break everything by showing you down on the floor there. Can you see there, down in the corner? I managed to get it in the right place. I bought a automatic vacuum cleaner. He's called Rocky. We've decided it's a male. He does the hoovering, and we just sit there, and he chugs around trying to avoid all that. And he just fall downstairs as well. It's very exciting. So 2 wonderful moments of the week for me. Paul, your moment of the week.
My moment of the week is becoming the secretary of the Socialist Educational Association for the Northeast of England. So that's kind of a nice thing, kind of something good to get myself involved with. Really nice meeting. Thanks to everyone who helped arrange that and set that up, because I'm sort of the first by virtue of the fact it's just started up. So Nigel Todd did all the work on that one. So big shout out to Nigel and everyone who was there, and it was really quite lively, really interesting that the opinions there were very, very, very different to the front bench of the Labour Party at the moment. It was so different, and all these people there who either had a real vested interest in education because they care about it. We had university lecturers there. We had people who worked in schools. We had people who just cared about it. We had people who were like me, teachers, and there was a lot of knowledge in the room. So yeah, pretty good.
What's the aim of this association? I mean, does it have is it a lobby group or what's it?
Sort of. It's one of Labour's affiliates, and people probably don't really understand this, but the Labour Party was set up through a series of groups, like affiliated groups and trade unions, and they all have are supposed to feed into the Labour Party and have a say within the Labour Party. So really, as an affiliate, anything educational should be really, you would consider that they might run that by something like the Socialist Educational Association, like they would with the Socialist Health Association, but doesn't necessarily seem to be the case at the moment, so let's change that.
Rosa Luxemburg is pitching in already on our first question. Hold that thought, Rosa. Copy and paste later so we can it doesn't disappear down off the bottom of the thing, and we'll be able to.
I can get back to it, John. I can always get back to it.
That's good. So thank you, Rosa. Samantha, moment of the week.
So today was another day where somebody was like, "Have you seen what he said about us?" And it was the MP for Darlington referring to the National Railway Museum in Shildon as a shed in The Guardian. And why do these new Tories think they can just be rude and aggressive and nasty to people? This is, of course, the ongoing saga about the relocation of Locomotion Number 1 from Darlington to Shildon. Locomotion Number 1 is part of the National Collection, which is, of course, looked after by the National Railway Museum. And, you know, we are going to have the biggest collection of engines in Europe in Shildon by the time we've got our new building made. So I know that people, the political leaders of Darlington are now they've come to the end of the road, where they realise that the engine's going to be moved, and they know that's going to be bad for them politically. So they're just becoming, things are getting out of hand, and they need to
Lashing
rein
out.
it in a little bit. Yeah. So, yes.
Did you read the article in the Northern Echo about it? I thought that was quite balanced.
There's been a lot of articles in the Northern Echo about it. I mean, the Northern Echo itself, in general, hasn't been very balanced. It's been very Darlington focused, but I accept they might have had one article that was reasonably balanced.
I thought that was. I thought that it was. It was in there today. I thought it was.
It was in there today. All right, I'll have a
Better
look.
than many that you read. Isn't it? Anyway, it looks as though you're going to get it. It's going to come home.
Yeah.
It's coming home. It's coming home. Locomotion is coming home.
It is. What is upsetting is there's two things that are upsetting. First of all, the Darlington Council was given an offer whereby Locomotion and Bone could come to visit, including during 2025, and they turned that down. And the second thing is this bad faith is more of a threat to the Head of Steam Museum than moving the engineers, because why would anybody want to work with them now?
The sort of just withhold visiting rights. That's it.
You're bad, mate.
Stuart, moment of the week.
Yesterday, I was at a very impressive meeting. Jessie Jo Jacobs, as part of her campaign, had held like a workers' roundtable, and somehow I was there. We had Andy MacDonald, the MP. We had union leaders from 5 unions, and I was there representing Unite Community as an activist, filling in for my regional organizer, and it was such an impressive, democratic meeting. It was really, Jessie wants to lead through democracy, and if this meeting was anything to go by, what an absolute, achievement it will be for Teesside to get Jessie as mayor. If she can deliver on that kind of, idea across the board on so many things, workers getting a seat at the table, not having to ask, not having to beg, not having to demand, getting your seat at the table to work on policy and influence stuff before anything happens. Absolutely brilliant.
I think Jessie Jo Jacobs strikes me as being a politician who is driven by what she wants people to have, other people to have, not by what she wants for herself. And sort of, I do hope to goodness that she gets that job. Well, yes, right, and well done, Stuart. By the way, we know that you are well of the calibre to be on that table. And Laura, moment of your week.
I had a few. It was really difficult to decide, but I thought I'd go with something that was just a bit special yesterday. The Socialist think tank released an advert, sort of an advert. It was more like a call to action. It was all about socialism and socialism meaning hope. And we had absolutely loads of people who've been contributors to some of our shows, all come on and do a little bit for us. And we edited all that together, and it went out yesterday for the first time. We had a really good response. And it was just really lovely to see something like that coming together with a lot of people from all over the place, from loads of different backgrounds. Thoroughly enjoyed seeing that go out to the wide world yesterday.
I mean, Socialist think tank has just exploded and is one of the most exciting things that's happened for a long time. How are you managing to find the time to do it all? Are you not going to burn out, the two of you? We're worried about you. Are you over?
Well, I mean, we're always just at that point where we might burn out, but we've got 2 other just absolutely, I can't even think of the word for them. Committed would be the nice way to put it. Driven. So Rochelle and James, who are sort of the other 2, we're in a WhatsApp group, and if one of us has an idea, someone just does it. So it's like everything moves really quickly. Everything gets done really fast. something I can't do, Paul will be able to do, something Paul can't do, Rochelle will be able to do, and so on. And just we all just work really well together, and so it gets done really quick. And also we might as well do what we can do while we can do it. You know, we don't know how long we've got to last. We don't know how long this platform will go for, so we're just doing as much as we can, throwing as much at it to try and get the message out. And we are enjoying it. It's hard work, but we are really enjoying it. So yeah, we're not giving up just yet.
Anne Willis, you're burning the candle at both ends. I agree with you, Anne. Just sort of anyway, what you're doing is fabulous. Thank you so very much. And time to move on.
Now it's time for the big story.
And the big story today, ladies and gentlemen, is Thatcherism. And the question of the evening is Thatcherism the way to level up the North? I don't like this negativity, Sam. We've only just asked the question. Let's see what everybody has to say. Stuart, kick us off. What the hell's what's it all about? Why am I asking this anyway? Sort of what's going on here?
Right. Well, a right-wing think tank, which is never a good sign for anything, is it? The Centre for Policy Studies has called upon the government to unleash radical Thatcherism upon the Northeast and across the North to bring forward a economic big bang that only the private sector can deliver, which is, you know, puts real worries into you, doesn't it, when you hear that stuff? And it's been backed by the northern group of MPs, including Paul Howell, amongst others. And some of the stuff that in this report is really nasty stuff. We have tax cuts, we have businesses getting write-offs for capital expenditure, deregulation of building, automatic planning permission given, fast-tracked planning permission for investors of over £20 million, which would completely bypass local democracy. And this is just a few of the things on offer, apparently, to rich investors, and deeply troubling stuff.
A number of things. Anne Willis says, what's Thatcherism? What's Thatcherism, Stuart? Thatcherism
is a neoliberal economic agenda for me, and some of you might have experienced it before through the 70s and 80s.
Yes.
So yeah, you can remember what that did for our industry. What a big bang that was.
I mean, that's it basically, Anne. What Thatcherism is that the private sector is better than the public sector. That if an industry is ailing, you let it go to the wall. The big thing of Thatcherism was that British industry was pampered and needed to experience the chill wind of competition from abroad. So she openly took to the chill wind, the competition from abroad. And you know what happened to our coal industry and our steel industry in the Northeast. So Thatcherism was a disaster for us. It was also tied up with her view of society, which was that the community didn't matter, that we were just individuals, and that each individual striving to do as well as they could selfishly for themselves would achieve the best for humanity. And all this silly talk about solidarity up north in the Northeast wanted destroying. And she succeeded in that as well. We hate her up here. Tim Dredge had a fabulous comment, which had just disappeared off the screen. Did anybody catch it?
I've got it. Andy Burnham said that these right-wing red wall Tory MPs are revealing how they don't understand the seats they won. It was Thatcherism which laid them low in the first place. People haven't forgotten that. So, like John said, it's all about the destruction by just being really ruthless and expecting business to fend for itself, and not supporting businesses as as state enterprises.
So, Sam, you were shaking your head and saying that's not the answer for the North.
Well, no, and this is, I was talking about this with somebody today about the difference between how people like us think of equality and how conservatives think of equality. So conservatives believe that equality is you give everybody the exact same stuff, and the good people can make good lives out of that stuff. But in the Labour Party, we believe in equality of opportunity, which means that some people need more help because they come from a more disadvantaged situation. And we are still, as somebody who lives in Shildon, overnight in Shildon, every man, because it was the men, lost his job when the railway works went. That is an evil of Thatcherism, which still has not been fixed. So we've now got generations of people who are suffering from that free market capitalism idea that if the people in Shildon were good at making engines, they would make them themselves. That's not how it works. You're not going to get somebody build a Tahachi, that's right, isn't it?
Hitachi.
Hitachi, there you go. You're not going to get somebody who is a bright little upstart build a Hitachi factory off their own back. You're going to need some help with that.
I mean, it's all to do with capital investment, isn't it? And sort of ordinary people just don't have the money to make the necessary capital investment, and it's where that money is going to come from. I mean, there were some things in that just filled me with absolute horror. Sort of the fact that if you're going to create more than 100 jobs, you don't need to apply for planning permission. You can just go ahead and do it. I mean, whoever thought that was a good idea? But once you get over that, sort of the key thing was, where is the money going to come from? Private industry or the public purse? And sort of what this think tank said is it has to come from private industry. Now, do you disagree with that, or do you think that they're speaking the truth in that case, Sam?
I was looking at the comments.
Oh, sorry, Paul.
No, I think there's a massive misunderstanding about private industry and what's going on. I think it can work in conjunction with like there's always going to be a place for people, making things, creating things, and not everything needs to be controlled by the state. I actually believe everything needs to be controlled by the workers rather than the state. So for me, that is a really important point to make, that the state shouldn't be in control of everything by any stretch of the imagination. I would like to see worker cooperatives and workers being in charge of what they're doing and what they're producing. But one of the things to do with Thatcherism is it's shareholders that own the companies, and everything's about creating profit for those shareholders. That's what Thatcherism is really about. It's about, I'll be speaking about this later, so I don't want to go on about it too much, but it's about that trickle-down mentality that if you look after the people at the top, the rest will take care of itself. And that's the whole mentality, and that's the whole ethos around Thatcherism. It's what Reagan and Thatcher were into. They wanted the idea, they advocated the idea that if you're incredibly rich, if we look after you, then because of the market, everything else will look after itself. But what we're actually seeing is it's the other way around. So what we're seeing is the time and again, the private sector is coming to states for state aid. They get handouts, like bank bailouts, things like that. And it costs people who are, some people refer to the taxpayer issue, you always call it public money, but it's ordinary people's money that could be spent on all sorts of excellent things instead of bailing out banks. But greed is king, and that is what Thatcherism is about. And this is the worry. We're not going to improve everyone's lives by making sure that rich people don't pay the tax. That is not the way to do it. I'm all for supporting people. I'm all for supporting local people. If you're going to do something like that, you're going to have to get worker representation on boards. You're going to have to make sure that workers are sharing in the profits that those businesses make.
I mean, ultimately, I think this is what socialism's all about, what democratic socialism's all about, that the function of the state and the function of the economy is to actually give the people who live in the state a decent way of living. But sort of come back to my question, Paul, do you not agree that if we're going to grow out of this, we are going to have to mobilize private capital? And if we go, the way you mobilize private capital is by offering it a profit. Surely that is just a factor of life.
See, you're asking me a question about something I fundamentally like. I don't like this system. I don't want to work within capitalism. I think capitalism is failing. I think capitalism is causing a series of crises. Like, it's caused. I think it's responsible for everything that we're seeing, even down to COVID. Like the fact that we are destroying every single natural resource that we have. We're chopping down rainforests, releasing different viruses into the air. We're destroying our environment. So I think we should be totally turning this on its head, and we shouldn't be, let's release private capital, let's release private equity. We don't want to do that. What we want to do is go back to basics, see what people need, and create a sustainable economy, a socialist economy. So that's where I am with this. So I'm not really going to pander to capital anymore. I'm a little bit sick of it, to be honest. Like, it is destroying the world, and we are far, far, far too deep into this to think, right, this is the way it should be. It's not. This isn't the way it should be. We need something drastically different. There is this assumption that capitalism is inevitable or it's correct, and neither of those things are true. Like, if you came up with a system now of how to run the world, would it be capitalism? No chance.
I don't think it'd be large scale corporatism. Eddie Adam mentions this theory's already been installed in the north through the so-called free ports. Is anybody on the team able to talk about free ports and expand on Eddie's idea there? We usually turn to you at this time, Paul. Do you understand about free ports?
You can do free ports if you want. Free ports are a way of trying to sort of boost trade by reducing taxes around a certain area. But what you find is actually it generally tends to lead to some sort of either really, I hesitate to say criminal, but I probably mean that. It is not used for the purposes of everyone's general benefit. Who usually benefits are the richest again. So this free ports idea is another way of avoiding tax. Now, I think the ultimate free port would be somewhere like, Monte Carlo, somewhere where taxes are incredibly low, but that's a kind of different thing. That's more for the people of there. So yeah, it's a really, really low, it's like a tax haven, and the idea is that it'll boost the economy somehow. I don't buy it.
I mean, the idea of free port is that they don't charge customs duties, isn't it? You can put the things into the free port and then move them on without having to pay duties. And the danger is that it brings prosperity. I mean, firms move there because they get the benefits of that. But where do they move from? Well, they move from places like Newton Aycliffe and County Durham. Because they can get an advantage. I'm not so sure it's the best thing for us. Okay, a lovely comment there, and which you're just going too fast. You're going too fast.
That was me. That was Anne telling me to slow down. I get excited and I try to get my point out.
What was the thing before that? Somebody said, was it Kevin Joyce who said something just immediately before? Anne Willis said, slow down. I can't go backwards and forwards on my stream.
I can a little bit. Okay. Nope, can't see it. PFI was a disaster. No, we'll come back to it in a bit. We can have a look
Yeah.
over the break.
Rochelle, thank you very much. The companies operating within free ports can benefit from deferring the payment of taxes until their products are moved elsewhere, or can avoid them altogether if they bring in goods or store or manufacture on site before exporting them again. Thank you, Rochelle. Fabulous. Laura, are you going to welcome the resurgence of Thatcherite economics in the Northeast? Is your
I mean, do you want a
opportunity?
one-word answer, John? Because you can have one. Or a two-word answer.
You've got the answer too, Charlotte.
No, I mean, to be fair, we're still I think personally in the north we're still suffering from Thatcherism now. It hasn't ever gone away. You know, just to go back to the closure of the pits and everything, families who had to deal with that are still struggling now and still trying to get back on their feet. So it's a perpetual thing, and it's funny listening to a few things the others have said. Samantha mentioned about it being they're trying to fix disadvantages. They said in the report that they want to give a voice to the disadvantaged in the north who felt that they were let down, much the same way they have done sort of with Brexit. And I just think, well, it's just so hypocritical, given that it was you who put us in this position in the first place. But again, what terrifies me is that people seem to have short memories and have forgotten that, and have forgotten the fact that we were shoved into a financial crash because of, you know, economic policies that the Tories had put in place and implemented. Stuart also said that there was some nasty stuff in there. There is. There's also some really boring stuff that would just happen anyway, as a matter of fact, that they're trying to sort of zhuzh up and go, yeah, look what we're doing. It's like that would just happen anyway, which is quite annoying. It's certainly not radical or Thatcherite. It's just bog standard. But they have said that they want to a deregulated business structure, and that we in the north are missing out on foreign direct investment. Well, actually, that's not something that we can particularly fix, because we in the northeast don't have the big businesses that foreign companies want to invest in, or they don't necessarily want to invest, they want to buy up some of it. They all are in London, so we haven't necessarily missed out on that. We just don't have those businesses. So perhaps the government should invest in businesses up here so we can get bigger, so that foreign investment wants to come here. If foreign investment comes here now, all they'll do is buy up our small businesses and take them away, and we won't see any benefit from that. But it does feel like they're trying to package it all up and be like, look at all these wonderful things we've got for you, when in actual fact it's the same as Brexit. Look at all these amazing things we're going to do for you because we care about the north. No, you care about what we've got to offer you. You know, you take our water off us for starters. You take in all of the NHS
Milk.
using
Took our milk
got
offers.
milk. Yeah, it's we basically used, and I think, but they've seen the seats that they've managed to win up here, and are trying to sort of capitalize on that narrative that we will give you what you've lost, completely disregarding the fact that we lost it because of them. So it does worry us, this report, because I think some people will look at it as a good thing. It's not. We need to read between the lines, and it is tantamount to Thatcherism, but I mean, that's nothing new. We're in that now anyway. We are very much in that you need to look after yourself, don't think about anybody else, and that is entirely the thinking that we need to change in my mind anyway.
Yeah, somebody in the stream said that what we've got now is 100 times worse than Thatcherism. That sort of basically, how I see it, is that we were going into industrial decline. A government came along and said, this is the medicine that would cure us. They gave us a huge dose of that medicine. It almost killed us altogether. And the only answer is to keep on giving us that same medicine over and over again, each time telling us that this will cure you. And oh golly, we need to be worried about it. Jake Ratcliffe, I absolutely agree with you. This Thatcherism never left. That's a fantastic statement. And Anthony Riley agrees with Paul. Everybody, Anthony, you all agree with Paul. But sort of, you just get big headed. Don't tell me. I'm going to bring that to an end now. Thank you very much. Thank you for your comments, everybody. God bless you. Now, however, Anthony Riley stripping us all as fast as they can before it's gone. Never was a truer word spoken. Okay. Now we have 3 more questions at about 8 minutes each. So let's be sharpish on this and efficient. Samantha, what's going on in Myanmar and what should we do about it?
So, let's start from the very beginning. Myanmar is a country in between Thailand and Bangladesh. Okay, and this really strikes me because I grew up watching Aung San Suu Kyi in house arrest. She was a pro-democracy leader in a country that was being run by the military, and she won the Nobel Peace Prize while in house arrest. And I was very taken with this story, you know, as a woman and as a girl at the time, and just how barbaric can these people be that they're not letting the democracy woman out to do democracy. So in 2011, finally, between 1962 and 2011, Myanmar was in control of the military. And in 2011, they had elections, and Aung San Suu Kyi was elected to lead the country. But the military disagree with the idea that the elections were free and fair, and that has led to her being there being a coup in the country where she's been taken out of power. To complicate things, Aung San Suu Kyi's reign also was basically a genocide for the Rohingya Muslims. A million of them were made to flee across the border into Bangladesh. So that was, again, yay, she's won. Oh no, she's committing genocide. It's really shocking and an eye-opener for us all to think that, you know, there isn't always clear who's a good guy and who's a bad guy, and obviously genocide is something that bad guys do, not good guys. So top and bottom of it is the military have not taken over control because they want to save the Rohingya Muslims. The Rohingya Muslims are still under threat, but the hope is with new elections, then hopefully the new political authority will seek a solution to that problem, but it's very much up in the air. Clearly, military coups are not something that any country wants to encourage. So there's been lots of condemnation for the military coup, including from our government. But the military do say that once they have put in place elections, that they will relinquish power. And I think, considering the stark nature of the Rohingya genocide, I very much welcome the idea that there will be hopefully a new government in place soon who will hopefully solve that problem.
Paul, thank you, Sam.
Oh, that wasn't me asking to speak there. Actually, that was me signaling a scene transition. But anyway, yeah. So I think this points out how fragile democracy can be. So democracy is often fragile at its best. But, like, you know, while Jeremy Corbyn was the leader of the Labour Party, there were senior figures in our military saying that if he took control, then there would be a coup. And we're in this position where, like, you know, I think sometimes we look at other countries and we think, oh, we're somehow, you know, above that or better than that, and sometimes we aren't. No, and we aren't by any stretch of the imagination. We're only a couple of steps away from this. And whenever we see these kind of awful acts against democracy, it should absolutely terrify us.
Stuart, I mean, at the moment we've got these riots, and do you think there's any chance of Aung San Suu Kyi coming back, or are we going to be moving on? Do you think? I mean, how's this going to work out? Do you think?
Absolutely no predictions from me, but I hope that there's still a sense of democracy there, that there's somebody who wants to take up the mantle, because democracy doesn't just happen. Obviously, if the military is going to be taking a while before they can get elections, it just shows you that there's a time frame where things have to be done, and we need people in the country to want to be democratic and step up to the plate. And I hope that there is someone there who really believes in proper democracy.
We're going back to what we said. We were saying earlier on the chat that we want good people, and democracy doesn't always deliver good people, even proper democracy. Jake Ratcliffe, democracy is fragile in most countries. And Kevin Joyce, I've just missed a dozen good things from you. Kevin, what's all this about Summer of Rockets? Kevin Joyce, Summer of Rockets. Kevin, type a bit and tell us what you mean by that. Laura, I mean, have you lost faith in Aung San Suu Kyi? Is this a broken heart you have? Was your hope? And
I mean, she is. Some would argue she still is the last hope for democracy from the Myanmar people. By all accounts that I've done a bit of research on it today, and there's plenty of people in Myanmar who really aren't that worried about the Rohingya genocide, because it doesn't directly impact them, they've said. But so Aung San Suu Kyi has sort of said that she doesn't believe it to be a genocide, and she thinks it was a difference of opinion. Which is really devastating, given the lead up to this, given how outspoken she's been about democracy. She's always said that she's not an activist, she's a politician. She's always said that from day one, and that's fine if you're a politician who wants to fight for democracy, and she has always shown that she wants to do that. Now, I'd argue that she's still probably more democratic than the military, but really there's not a lot of difference if you're going to sort of diminish genocide and say, oh, it's a difference of opinion. So it is really sad. It is really sad. But there's a lot of people saying that should they hold a fair election, she'd probably win again anyway, because the Myanmar people really love her. And I think for me, all of this, the civil disobedience that's been going on, none of it's been, well, for the most part, it's been sort of people lying on train tracks, people lying in roads, people out bashing pots and pans. It hasn't been anything really vicious or violent from the people, but it's scary what the police and the troops think is proportional force when they come in with big machine guns and start shooting. That's scary. But when we get to the point where we've got to go out and be on the streets because of something we believe in, which I think we should be allowed to do, I'm surprised. I can't believe we don't do it more here in Britain, given what we've been put through over the past sort of 30 years. I think it's heartening to see that people are willing to stand up for what they believe in. It's worrying that the military want to sort of go in with force. And as for who's going to win the next election there, I don't, at this point, I don't think either the military general or Suu Kyi would be the best option, but we'll have to see what happens. I mean, they were arguing that this election was rigged. I would wonder if the next one's going to be rigged as well.
The only way she'll lose. Leanne Powell doesn't like her at all. Thank you for those comments, Leanne. She prosecuted journalists and activists, defended the Army's genocide. I've lost all faith in her as a leader. Yeah, most of the Buddhist population support her. Without allowing Rohingya to vote, you'll never get a fair election, which is just a statement of fact, isn't it? Samantha Townsend. What's this you're telling us about here, Sam? Is this Day
This
of
is
Rocket?
the Summer of Rocket. See, this is why I couldn't find you. Are too fast, Mr. Clare. You are talking about comments on YouTube, and I couldn't find them because they were on. I was looking on Facebook, but yes, Kevin Joyce recommends we watch Summer of Rockets. It is a drama on Netflix about the Cold War and inventors, and that's all I've got so far. But I've put the link in the comments anyway.
Thank you very much indeed. It's on Netflix. It's worth watching, according to Kevin. And the other thing is, hiya, Heather, who's joined us. Heather Swallow, one of our loyalist followers and very precious to us. Lovely to see you here tonight. Okay, next question. Laura, does lockdown, we shouldn't take this as the last one because it's in a way it's almost amusing, isn't it? Because it's everybody's dream. Does lockdown justify murder?
Does lockdown justify murder is everybody's dream, John? Did we just put that on record as you saying that, did we?
So much trouble for laughing at that.
Oh my God.
Wow,
okay.
Times.
So this question comes on the back of
this
this question comes on the back of Anthony Williams has been found not guilty of murdering his wife Ruth. They were both, I think they were both from Wales. Basically, he strangled her to death, and they found him not guilty because his defense was that he just flipped because he was so worried about COVID and money. And he just flipped. And it's not like him at all. He wouldn't hurt a fly normally. Can't believe he did it. He's really sorry. And so he got found guilty of manslaughter with diminished responsibility, which I'm sure people on this panel have opinions about. But for me, it's absolutely shocking. You know, the idea of diminished responsibility, I tell you what, I could have killed somebody over this lockdown. I really could have. I've lost the plot so many times. But it's not an excuse to go from being stressed out and just losing your mind to killing someone. There is a huge leap there, a massive leap. And I don't think it's a good enough excuse for me.
Have
and
they,
it opens
have they locked him away in a sanatorium or something, or have they just let him out onto the street?
No, I mean, he'll get sentenced because he does have a conviction now, but it's not for murder. It wasn't his fault, you see. Because
I see. So he'll go to prison, but they've decided.
Yeah. But it's opened such a kettle of fish, this, because, you know, over lockdown, domestic violence has risen by double. And killings through domestic violence has also risen by double. I think it's a really, really worrying time for women, especially because, yes, and we can, if people want to put in the comments, but women kill men too, or women abuse men too. I am not saying they don't. Yes, they do, and it's horrendous and it shouldn't happen. However, if I wanted to kill Paul, it'd be a lot more difficult than if he wanted to kill me. Trust me. He's a bigger fella and he could do it if he wanted to. I know he wouldn't because he loves me and because he's not a murderer. But certainly the idea that he might flip out and just get stressed about money and kill me is not a good enough excuse. And so we have to then start thinking about, is the dealing of coronavirus and this lockdown and obviously the mental health implications of that, it's going to have such a huge impact on the misogynistic sort of views that are held in this country. And does that spill out to our justice system? If it was a woman who'd flipped out and killed a man, would we have had the same response? I hope we never have to find that out. I really do, because it's just awful. Anybody dying is just awful. So I think it's opening a can of worms for me, in terms of the misogyny deep rooted in our society and how this man could have been let off with murder. I mean, she had a pair of keys in her hand when they found her, and they said it looked like she was trying to escape the house. She's obviously chased after her to strangle her. I'm really sorry if this is really upsetting and triggering for people. Actually, it is really awful. But they're the facts. So the fact that he didn't get done for murder, for me, speaks volumes. about our justice system and where we're heading, and it's really scary, and also the mental health, as I say, the mental health implications of this lockdown that's having on people.
Thank you. Alison Hooton, Women's Aid is getting behind non-lethal strangulation being made an offence, as it's only the potential effect if it's lethal. Now, if that is true, I'm horrified by that bit of information. Sam, I'm coming to you next on this one. If a woman had been bullied and brutalized and had eventually in a home and had eventually flipped and murdered her husband, as sometimes happens, then maybe the court would have found her guilty of manslaughter with diminished responsibility. She'd been pushed into it beyond what we could expect anybody to cope with. Now, one of the things we always say is we do not know the full situation. Do you think that there are any situations where it could be argued that this man sort of has been pressurized by the pressure of his situation, and that maybe we don't know better than the courts? Or are you fully behind Laura that this is the thin end of a wedge? If I can claim that I was under pressure from COVID and murdered my wife, this is what do you think about this?
Yes, so there are examples of women who have gone through years, decades of abuse from a husband and snapped and murdered them, and not being given diminished responsibility, like you say. But the fact is, this is not an example of something that's happened in this house. We have all been going through this pandemic. We have all been affected by it in different ways, and I don't think you can just say it was really stressful for me. Oh, poor me! I killed my wife. It's Look, the fact of the matter is, rape in this country is basically decriminalized, because if you get raped, the amount of people who get actually charged and actually go to prison for rape is so statistically insignificant that basically there is no consequence for that. And there are women who don't come forward because they know that the investigation is so intrusive. You have to give over your phone. You will have every single part of your life raked over with a fine-tooth comb.
And your body.
Yes, and your body after you've had the most traumatic experience of your life. So it just goes, unfortunately, no, it does just seem that women's lives don't matter. This is there's a huge epidemic of domestic abuse happening alongside the pandemic. So really, at this point, the government and the judicial system needs to be making a stand to say, we will protect you.
Thank you, Sam. And spot on. God bless you for that. Misogyny, Anne Willis, is the bigoted hatred of women, a bigoted prejudice against women. And I'm going to leave that. I'm sorry, I apologize to everybody that I was making light of the situation. And sort of now we've discussed it, I realize I shouldn't have done it. It was a very, very serious thing. I'm now going to move on to the last question. Paul, has trickle down failed to the point where governments are prepared to ditch it? Hi, Paul. Paul, sorry to interrupt. There are people saying that you're muted. They can't
I
hear
am.
you.
Yeah, sorry, I missed that one. So, right, I'll start again.
Start again.
So massive apologies. I do know that it's one of the things with a movie director thing that so I'm not a movie director. So what I was saying is, firstly, thank you to Anne for asking these questions, because Anne is asking these questions that are really important, and I think sometimes we have a tendency to speak above people's heads. Everyone has that tendency to do that, so I'm really glad she asked those questions. So this is about trickle-down economics, and trickle-down economics is this theory that they came up with apparently in the Swiss Alps. This small group of people came up with this idea about how we're going to have this like extreme right-wing economic ideology, which means that what you have is unregulated capitalism. The market looks after you, the market looks after itself, and everything will be fine. And this was really popularized by Reagan and Thatcher. Now, for years and years, this was considered to be absolute, bizarre economic theory. Everyone thought it was awful. And then Thatcher and Reagan kind of came around to this idea of neoliberalism. And the idea is you look after the richest in society, and that wealth will trickle down. So as long as you make people really, really rich, that will somehow trickle down to everyone else. Now, it's been debunked time and again, and recently this week it's been debunked again as an awful, awful theory that doesn't work. So trickle-down economics doesn't work, and yet our entire economic system is based around trickle-down economics. It's about the idea that some people will be taxed very little, because that increases everyone else's wealth. You look after the rich people and everyone else will be okay because their wealth will magically trickle down. What actually happens is it circulates within the wealthy, so they buy really expensive commodities from one another. So that is what genuinely happens in trickle-down economics, but the idea is that wouldn't happen. So I don't think that many people would actually believe it if it's put to them, but I don't think people realise that for the last 30, 40 years, that has been our economic system.
Thank you. I think the idea is that if you give people lots of money, they spend it, and that creates jobs for other people. The problem with the rich people nowadays is they don't. They shove it into a bank account in wherever it is. Stuart Sutherland, I'm going to come to you for the last word of the show. Trickle-down economics. What would you do instead?
Care about people. Make sure people could afford to live. What else is there? There's an end date on neoliberalism, isn't there? It'll die one day, and then the rest of us with it.
Do you think that it is that serious, Stuart? That sort of unless we see the end of neoliberalism, then we're going to actually see the death of society?
Absolutely, yeah. If something doesn't happen relatively quickly as well, we're going to be in a position where there is zero money down at the bottom, and we will be in resource wars as countries, while very rich people can do whatever they please.
Because the other side of things is that we allow these rich people they're wrecking the environment and the climate as we speak. Thank you. I do have 2 minutes left. Sam or Laura, have you got anything you want to add to this final question before we say goodbye to everybody?
Yes, there was a very good comment from, where's he gone? Really good comment from Kevin Joyce saying that what Ben said, wealth doesn't trickle down, it bubbles up. I love a Ben quote. Yeah, he's a great guy. And I'm really sorry, Paul, but Leanne says Stuart for PM. So
you missed that.
I'm
Have
pretty
an-
fine
Look
with
at
that.
turn, Samantha.
There an awful lot of hopes get dashed. I'm just going to say goodbye. I am going to say one thing before we go. I tried a few weeks ago, if you remember, I've always put a poll up and it's been very, very popular. And basically what I've done is I've scouted through the week's news and said, what do you want to talk about? And people have voted on the poll and they loved it. But I did think it was tremendously arrogant of myself to be telling you that sort of, so we've tried for a few weeks where I've sort of said, what do you want us to talk about? And actually, some of the things you wanted us to talk about have been absolutely fantastic. And thank you, that's brilliant. We love those questions. And so they were different, the kind of questions I was asking as well, which is a sort of always a good thing. But nobody asked anything this week. We had to make up our own questions this week. So I'm going, with your permission, I'm going to go back to the poll, and we can get really excited about the poll. And maybe when we're a bit bored with the poll, we'll go back in. And when you absolutely like this with questions you want to ask, well, then we'll return and we'll go back to the suggested question first. But it'll be back to the poll next week. What I'm going to do now is we sort of we wave bye to you. We play some music. And then we come back for our sort of informal chat where Samantha leads the show from then on. And we go through everybody's comments and make comments on your comments. And so at this point, some people leave us at this point. If you're one of those people who go, thank you for your fantastic comments. Thank you for watching us. And if we're not going to see you in 5 minutes' time, see you next week. Say bye-bye, everybody.
Can I also say that rather than leave, stay and then share it and then get more people watching, because that's always good, because we've got such a loyal audience. People stick with us throughout the entire thing, and every time we get more viewers, people stay. So I think that people should stay. You can go if you want, but people should stay and people should enjoy this and tell other people to come and watch as well, because people are really I feel like we're becoming like a little family here, so it's really nice to see those names coming up and again and again, and I'm sure that there's other people who'd want to watch too.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
See
My name is Jack Atkins and I'm not afraid, and I live and die by this vow that I've made. The only good fascist, a dead one, they say, and a rhyme we are. When I first left all them months ago, I told him I'd come not to kill but to cure. Well, for an ambulance driver my shot's pretty sure, and a rhyme we are. There'll be no pass around, no pass around, no pass around today. The fascists have come for our freedom, and we ain't gonna give it away. There'll be no pass around here today. I told my mother, now mother be strong, for the left way is right and the right way is wrong. And you can stick that on my grave when I'm gone, for I'm a real we are. There'll be no pass around, no pass around, no pass around today. Fascists have come for our freedom, we ain't gonna give it away. There'll be no pass around here today. cast may be cast, and the cast may be cast, but you armies of darkness, you best do your worst. 'Cause to win, yeah, well, you gotta get past those first, and around here we are. There'll be no place around, no place around, no place around today. The fascists have come for our freedom, and we ain't gonna give it away. There'll be no pass around here, no pass around, no pass around, no pass around today. No pass around, no pass around, no pass around today. No pass around, no pass around, no pass around today. The fascists have come for our freedom, and we ain't gonna give it away. There'll be no place around here today.
Too late. I've started talking now. It's just sort of, I always get confused. Welcome back. Welcome back specifically to my granddaughter, Joni May Clare. You're very, very welcome indeed. She's coming here, everybody, to be indoctrinated by the Dream Team. They are going to plant socialist seeds in her brain, which will grow up and watch out, everybody.
Can I do a couple of things here, John? Can I do a couple of things before we do the handover? One thing, again, they seem like advertising plugs, but they're not, right? This little badge here that you may have noticed me wearing tonight, that was made by Annie Wright, who and that was sent to me, and I think it's really, really nice. It's a little like socialist symbol there on a badge. She's sewed that herself. It's beautiful, and Annie Wright is. She's on Instagram, and I think we'll probably put that in the comments. So that's a really nice thing. And also, you might have to look at your screens for this one, because you might not be able to see this, John. But we've had this made for you. If anyone can see, people at home will be able to see this. That's pretty. This is our new political muted thing. Rochelle's made this for you today. I think it's quite a nice little unveiling. So,
I can't see it.
No, we've got a delay, haven't we?
Yeah, and I don't know where Stuart has gone, which is slightly an issue. I don't know if Stuart's dropped out there, but yep, there we go. So I'm going to have to...
I can see it now.
Can you see it? Can you see it? So...
What we're looking for. So something...
Oh.
How embarrassing.
Don't know, like, Stuart has dropped out for a minute. So I'm going to, while that is on, I'm going to try and do something very, very, very clever here. So while we're talking about that, you can start your conversation, but I need to do something a little bit neat here. So bear with me.
If we need to fill some time, I can tell you about my new chicken.
Oh yes.
Oh, we are.
Yeah.
I know.
You don't need to fill in time. I'm just doing something clever. So sort of clever anyway. It's not that clever.
Well, it's
So
like
yeah,
a chicken anyway.
we're back on.
Is it a socialist chicken? Can we justify it in political terms?
It's definitely a socialist chicken.
There you go then.
Because it came to me through, it was surplus chicken. It was an escaped chicken, and I had I've obviously got a name for myself now as the chicken lady. So I got a random message off somebody on Facebook saying there's a chicken in my backyard, and I hear that you're the person to talk to about that. So anyway, she's lovely. She is a young white leghorn, which means when she comes of age, she will lay white eggs. And she's settling in nicely. She's been with me for 11 days now. So I'm very much pleased with that. I tried to find her owner, but to no avail. So never mind. She's mine now.
There's a socialist chicken if ever there was one. Jake says there's no such thing as a capitalist chicken.
Yeah.
Where capitalism gets chicken is all we'll say. Walk around Tesco.
Yeah.
So, well, what were you doing, and have you done it?
Yeah, it's done. It's
Put a
done.
frame on us so that it doesn't look wonky, so that there isn't a spare spot.
Yeah, it's making up for my previous mistakes. But we want Stuart back on, so when Stuart back on, Stuart. So
Have we heard anything from Stuart?
Yeah, his internet's died, but he said he'd be back soon.
His internet's just died. Oh.
Get him back in. I'll invite him back in, and then I'll have to do a quick screen change, but just go as normal. So
We're just going.
Okay.
Right, Sam, kick off you go.
Yeah, so really interesting when we were talking about Myanmar and Aung San Suu Kyi and democracy. Like, there was a really interesting little discussion happened between Howell and Maureen and Anthony about kind of, is democracy right for everyone? And, Maureen believes that democracy and what's morally right go hand in hand. Anthony says it's not democracy if you, he asks, is it democracy if you deny a minority population a vote? Most of us would disagree that it is democracy if you disenfranchise a chunk of the population. So yeah, it's just interesting. Do we all agree in this room that democracy is really the only way to run a country?
I might argue that what we have isn't necessarily the kind of democracy that we need to have at this point. So it worries me a little bit that the democracy that we have isn't as democratic. Like, do workers have power? Do people who work in a place have a power? Is getting a vote once every 5 years enough? Is that enough for us?
One of the actually, I'm going to ask you in a moment to talk about participatory democracy, Paul, and participatory budgeting and things like that, and how that might change our county. But I was reading a very interesting thing the other day, and it distinguished, Sam, between democracy and majoritarianism. And the majoritarianism is a kind of dictatorship, it said. And that what you do is, sort of the democracy comes in, and then you have a democracy, and you have a majority, and all they do is they make all the decisions for themselves. And it can be absolute. I mean, the key one, of course, was Northern Ireland in the 1930s to the 1960s, where the majority just ruled and used their majority position to absolutely oppress the minority. And sort of, that's not proper democracy, is it? What we're needing is we need, and the idea was that democracy is what Paul was talking about, which is a state in which all voices are heard and everybody has a say. Paul, I'm going to you.
I'm just interested in Penny being the main focus of like right in the middle of Laura's screen there.
It's like clockwork. She comes in every single. As soon as we do the after show, she comes upstairs.
It's more that
to say
she's
hello.
bang in the middle and you're off the edge of the thing, like, oh, hey, here's our dog. So you go.
She's the star.
What's she got to say? This is the thing.
So if I don't believe that we have democratic structures the way that we need to do it. I believe that we've got an establishment that kind of crushes a lot of the democracy. I've learned this over the last few years within the Labour Party. Like, the Labour Party have some very interesting systems where democracy can be very, very quickly taken away from people. So let's say we've been recently given a directive from our General Secretary who's saying, we can't talk about this, and we can't talk about this, and we can't talk about this. And what he said basically came from a directive that he gave us, saying that we're not allowed to talk about like anti-Semitism or anything like that, which came from the fact that the Labour Party itself, the people who work for the Labour Party in the governance and legal unit, hadn't really got to grips with the situation properly. So they hadn't hadn't functioned properly, and that has now been blamed on the members of the Labour Party, and they have said, no, you can't talk about anything, you're not allowed to talk about anything, and they've suspended absolutely loads of people for allowing democratic debate in the party. Now, that's a problem. That's a huge problem. And the idea that you can't talk about things in a democratic party is deeply, deeply worrying, particularly as that is aimed at a problem that was caused by the party structures. So the party structures are telling us not to speak about something that they didn't deal with very well. So because they didn't deal with it very well, members aren't allowed to do anything. And it's, I think this is symptomatic of our democratic systems. I don't think our democratic systems are particularly great within the Labour Party or within the UK. I don't think very many people feel they have a say. Most people's vote is in the first past the post system seems to be valueless to them, and that turns people off democracy, and that really, really suits people who don't really want you to vote. If they don't want you to vote, if they don't want you to mess around in their little, their little sandpit, which is their playpen, when they are in charge of everything, then, it really suits them to make democracy as boring and limited as possible. And I think that's something we desperately need to change. And I think that's of far greater importance in than political party politics. I think allowing people to have a say and making sure that people say is important is of far greater importance than voting for this party or this party or this party. If voting for a particular party will allow us all to have a greater say in democracy, and I would hope that would be the Labour Party, then great. That's definitely who everyone should vote for. But we shouldn't be doing it just to retain the status quo, which seems to be the party line at the moment in the Labour Party. Sorry, ran over there.
No, that's fine. Let it all out. Apparently, Tim says the Co-op Party democracy is very good. I still haven't got round to joining the Co-op Party, and I probably should. It's come up a few times.
I've never been to a Co-op Party meeting. I've been a member for nearly a year, and I go to everything, as you know. So I'm not sure whether the Co-op Party, I think it just depends. It just depends, and then they've put on a few events that are kind of decent. But have I had my say within the Co-op Party? I like the idea of cooperative movements, mind, I really do, and I support him in that. But I want, what is the end goal of the cooperative party would be my point there.
Anthony says he thinks that everyone that can vote should have a voice, and that elections should be sooner than every 5 years and more transparent. That's the scary thing about democracy at the moment. Like, if we look at the big picture, if we look at the general elections, it's been so shady hasn't it? All of these different groups set up to campaign that aren't actually the political party, but clearly are campaigning for the political party. You know, I think it's definitely a shameful, the most shameful sort of time I felt about our democracy when I woke up on polling day in December and saw that there were posters basically inferring that Jeremy Corbyn was a paedophile on all of the lampposts in the town. You know, that's not how we do democracy in a mature society. And it was just all, you know, it wasn't Conservative branded. You know, they were put on lampposts, which is actually, it's illegal to campaign on council property, which lampposts are. So it's just really bad, so we need to get rid of that rubbish, definitely.
Just before we go any further, I just do want to say that the Labour Party democracy is far greater than, let's say, the Conservative Party democracy, where candidates are parachuted in. It just seems like the Labour Party seem to think that that might be the best way of defeating Tories, is to emulate their systems. And I think we've always sort of done that. We've tried to emulate the democratic systems that were already in place in like the 19th century. And we've tried to emulate party structures that are of the 19th century, where we door knock and where we do whatever. We're not doing things differently. I don't see the point in trying to beat people at their own game. I really don't. Like, you know, they've got it stitched up. They've got the wealthy donors. Do something different. Bring people in. But in order to do that, you've got to stop the people who think it is their right, or certainly their ambition, to be the next MP or something like that. You've got to get rid of egos in this situation, and you've got to say what is best for the collective is best for everyone. It doesn't matter who is the MP, it doesn't matter who is Prime Minister, if the system is right, because it would matter, because they would have to behave in a way that was respectful to their members or respectful of the community. But it does matter who is the PM, because they don't have to be respectful of the people of the country. They don't have to be respectful of democracy, really, because it's only once every 5 years that they really have to deal with that. So we need systemic change. Like, we can't just say let's just win an election one time and then be kicked out after 5 years. You know, you saw like in the 45 government of the Labour Party, they were kicked out after 5 years or so, weren't they? They won another election afterwards, but they couldn't work because they didn't have a big enough majority. Parliamentary democracy, the way it is far, far, far from adequate.
Can I just interrupt you very rudely? The first thing is that Mia Mantrisby just saying some fantastic things. The first one, I absolutely agree, Mia, that it's not democracy when people get shouted down. That's the first thing. And the second thing is, I love this point. I've heard it said it looked like in the last election, it wasn't so much that people went from Labour to Tory, as that Labour voters just didn't. That's actually not quite true. There were people, there were crossovers. I've been to I've been to three webinars recently about why Labour lost the red wall seats. All of them approaching it from very different ideological standpoints. I'm going to be writing about that in this month's CLP newsletter about this. Very interesting.
You heard it here first.
Sort of,
Make sure you are subscribed to the Sedgefield
yes, absolutely.
CLP
I mean, we
newsletter.
publish it for everybody to read. Everybody will know. The only other thing
Got a bit of an echo on you there, John. I think.
I don't know where it's coming from. Sort of, I've just got me.
Oh no, you're all right now.
So yes, it comes and goes, doesn't it? So no, Anne Willis. Does that include lampposts with water features? And I have continued to chase that lamppost that had this. The thing about it is when you get water leaking or running underground, it can't find a way out. So it very often comes up at a lamppost, and it flows from the base of the lamppost down the street. So Anne's reported one to me, and I am chasing it physically as well as reporting it, and we'll see if we can't get it dealt with.
Gosh, speaking of reporting things, can I tell you another story, totally unrelated to all these comments? a few months in September, the local Conservative activists did this Facebook post where they indicated they had chopped up a fly-tipped sofa and got rid of it. And then, like last week, I got a message from somebody who lives in the street saying, "When are you coming to take this sofa away?" So for months, for 5 months, they've let us believe that they had this fly-tipped sofa taken to the tip by these Conservative activists, and they hadn't. They hadn't even taken it away. And then it's Durham County Council's fault because Durham County Council told them they would take it away, but they didn't say that on the original post. It's so sneaky, just looking for likes again. This attitude of looking for likes and looking for social media instead of actually doing your job. It's just so annoying. Anyway,
Gotcha politics. Gotcha politics. It's crap.
Yeah.
I've actually got a picture of a leaflet by a young Tory who was standing for council, and it said that he'd moved the trolley by the side of the road and taken it back to the supermarket. Conservatives, you know, that was his big thing. His change. That's what he'd done for the community. He had moved a trolley.
Mad.
Saving the
so
world
funny
one
though,
trolley
like,
at a time.
It's so funny that the Conservatives will shout about moving a trolley somewhere, but we won't shout about like literally packaging up hundreds of food parcels for people in our community. We'll just go, that's fine, just don't mention it.
Yeah.
It's,
And
maybe
a lot of the
it's
time,
a
and this isn't entirely like the way that everything works. However, a lot of the time, like a Tory will turn up at a food bank and there'll be Labour activists behind them having done the work at the food bank, and they'll turn up and smile at a food bank, and then everyone behind them is absolutely gutted because they have to have a food bank. And you know, one person's publicity stunt is another person's devastated requirement that they have to do in order to help their community. Yeah.
Rachel Edge and Mark Lungley. It is Bristol, and what's happened in Bristol is an absolute outrage.
Yeah.
Sort of absolute, sort of an attempt to destroy the Bristol Labour Party by the Labour Party. Absolutely horrific.
Yeah, they had a AGM which had over 500 members in it for a start. Wow. I wish we had 500 members turn up to an AGM, which went on for 6 hours. Was it 6 hours? Because it had been organised by the regional Labour Party, who had and all of the officers had been suspended, so they couldn't run it themselves. So it was just a farce. They did. We've got this voting technology in the Labour Party called a non-voter. They set it up so you couldn't vote for different people. They put 2 names on one thing, so you know, and it was just people weren't getting their emails, and it was just a total mess. It's really tricky, this. I was saying to some friends, we were talking about it and saying how there've been quite much fewer people in the northeast suspended, many fewer officers in the northeast suspended, and the comment came back, that's because there's not enough staff in the regional office to do our work for us if they did suspend us. So who knows whether that's true or not. Anthony says,
I'd say one thing there is we do have to be considerate that these people are workers, you know, and a lot of people are just there to do the jobs. They aren't acting on their own, you know. And some people have problems with regional officers in the Labour Party. Personally, I never have. I've always got on relatively well, very, very well with the people in regional offices. You can be politically different, but they're acting as civil servants of the party, which is the way it has to be. And you know, that's my experience. Other people may have a different experience, but personally, that's my experience of working with the Labour Party staff locally. And when I hear these horror stories about how other people do it, I just think, well, you know, if only they could behave a little bit more like the people I have dealt with on a one-to-one basis. And again, we need to make sure that we're a member-led structure. At the same time, we need to respect our workers as long as they are behaving as workers and they are not usurping the membership democracy. That's what I would say. And it's always difficult when you care about workers in that situation, because when workers do something really, really bad, like they appear to have done in Bristol, it causes a lot of consternation.
Can I just interrupt again and changing the subject? Somebody going on about Anthony Riley. The very fact that food banks exist is an abomination. So when a politician turns up for a photo op, it demonstrates his utter contempt for the working poor. What a fabulous statement, and pretending that you care. And the big thing that we're finding is that these people are making statements, these Tory politicians, the Tory MPs who took over red wall seats, telling you that it was going to be so different, them saying the right things about poverty, but then what they're doing is they are voting to cut the universal credit, voting against the cheese. And you need to look at what they're doing in Parliament, not what they're saying on your television screens and in the newspapers.
Yeah, I had that exact conversation several times about Deanna, because she's very good in person, she's very charismatic, and people like her. And I actually did have a conversation with somebody in a food bank saying, oh, she came here and she was really nice. And I said, look, I'll tell you whether I think she's nice based on what she votes for, because that's her job and she should be voting to the benefit of us here. Whatever comes out of her mouth, it's just hot air, it's just noise. What she votes for is what counts. And an elephant has just let wind in John Clare's house.
I think Stuart wanted to come in there on that point.
Yeah. Go on then, Stuart.
I get very angry about food banks and, the kind of way that it saps the politics out of, the solidarity of it. Because people are just trying to do good and they don't want people to be put off by it being a political thing. But it is such a political thing. And if you want to change what's going on, if you go to a food bank because you need the service, or you volunteer at a food bank, or you just think they're an abomination, you need to join a union. If you want to change that situation without it getting too political, join Unite Community, join Unite, join whatever union you can, because they're all there fighting, anti-austerity politics are a big thing in the unions. And if you join the People's Assembly against austerity, all the work and effort that goes in to make sure that we have a proper social security system that, doesn't need food banks to exist. Imagine that. I was a kid. I wasn't a particularly wealthy kid. Never heard of a food bank. Never needed one. The fact that they exist today, is so sickening.
100%, Stuart. 100%. Maureen says she can't get her head around how we can be governed by a government 300 miles away. Have you seen all the nice pictures of Boris Johnson popping up on your news feeds in the last few days?
It's today,
Yeah.
is it today that
Today.
they've put that out? Stuart knows about it, I think.
Yeah. Stuart, what do you think?
He's been to visit, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Popped up, no
Have
masks.
you been today?
Yesterday, I think.
All right.
I think maybe he went up to Northumberland about this giga plant thing, didn't he? No, he didn't. He went up to Billingham for the vaccine thing, and then he went to Northumberland for the giga plant thing. So I just think while he's up here, he decided he would go and visit every constituency MP's office in the northeast, which is really not the most sensible thing to do during a pandemic. So now there's all these pictures of Boris Johnson stood in enclosed spaces with no face mask on, with loads of different MPs. I mean, it just,
They took the masks off, apparently. They took the masks off for the photos because COVID's scared of a flash or whatever. You know, that's how the science works, I'm sure.
I mean, yeah, Ma fooled me staying at home and talking to you guys on Zoom. That's what you see people on Facebook say. Well, he's working. Well, I managed to work and not come into contact with anybody, so it's entirely possible to do so. You didn't have to go and visit all those offices.
Well, isn't the idea of a lockdown to have if you can work from home, you should? Did he need to do that? Was that necessary? Was he like there unblocking the drains or something? Is he a canny plumber? You know, do we know that? You know, is that why he needed to physically be there? Because that is the spirit of this lockdown. The spirit of it is that if we need to be at work, we must be, and that's why we must respect these workers who need to be at work. But if you just want to get out and have a few beers with your colleagues or something, that's not. And I'm not saying that's what he did, but he didn't look like particularly fresh.
I've just had a really, really interesting text from James, who's 1/4 of the Socialist think tank team. He said that Boris has been doing this strategically. If you've noticed, he's had 5 meetings with Murdoch recently, and now he's doing the rounds around his MPs. He thinks he's planning for an election.
Well, they are quite far ahead on the polls, aren't they?
So they don't need an election.
No, they don't need one.
Majority.
Unless he's worried that he's going to get booted out of office.
It could be an internal power thing, couldn't it?
Yeah, the new Tories of the Northeast are very close to Boris, aren't they? Because they
the blue collar Tories.
Yeah. They are very loyal. So yes, I would imagine that would be why.
This character of mine, the blue collar Tory, seems to be appearing a little bit. It appeared on Socialist Night Live the other day, so it appeared then. But it seems because some of the Tory MPs, of course, used to be things like accountants and what have you. So they're blue collar Tories, you see.
Sorry, boy.
Jake says he's had an email from Mr. Howell today, and turns out Jake is wrong about everything.
Oh, well, there you go. At least he corrected you, Jake.
Yeah.
I think Jake's often right, to be honest, to be fair to him.
The best one was when I sent a letter to the MP's office. It was during one of the lockdowns. It was the thing about informal childcare not being included in the exemptions for seeing other people. So I sent a letter straight away to Deanna's office saying, you know, this is wrong and this is why. And especially in the Northeast, you know, you say you want to level up, but most people are only able to work because of family childcare arrangements. And I got a really long letter about how this is so much more sensible because older people are more at risk of COVID and XYZ, and this is why we are drawing the line here. And literally the next day they did a U-turn on it. And I'm finding this a lot with the new Tories. I support the Prime Minister, and the Prime Minister does a U-turn. They're like, I still support the Prime Minister.
It's government by WhatsApp, isn't it? You know, they're in a big WhatsApp group and they wait to get told, oh, this is what I have to say. And then it changes. Like, you know, breakneck speed.
Wasn't that what they did recently with didn't Howell make a big statement about how he was dead against something and then went and voted? He was dead against the idea that they're not going to get they're going to have the £20 uplift taken away from them, then went and voted to have it taken away from people. You know, it's just, they just say things and then they hope people don't look at the voting record. Because you know what? People are too busy. And there's a lot of cheerleaders. There's a lot of people who've been desperate for this for years. Like these secret Tories who've been independents for years and years and say, oh, I'm this and I'm that and I'm really a working class Labour one, but like I'm so disillusioned with Labour. But really they've always been Tories. And they are so all over these new Tory MPs that that's what they've been after for years. They've been after a Tory government and they've been after Tories locally. And when they fail, they just cover it up for them and they say, isn't it brilliant what they've done? Isn't it brilliant? They're saying, oh, they're dead against this, but the voting record says the opposite thing.
Yeah.
What's that? It has to hunt.
It must be referring to like it has to be Hunt, as in Jeremy Hunt.
Yes.
Tim's trying to make a point that sort of loyalty is a bit fleeting because Deanna supported Jeremy Hunt before Boris became the Conservative leader. Yeah.
Hang on, I'm going sort of. Joni May, I've already said hello to you once, obviously to the great sort of void. Anyway, apparently you're back now. Hello, and I'm giving you a shout out on Socialist Think Tank. All right.
Shall we put the picture of you up again, John, just so that she can see it? Shall we put that up again?
Yeah, put it up again. It'll hopefully be available on a badge soon as well. I'm getting one.
Oh, the picture of me.
Yeah. Don't worry.
But she knows what I look like. She doesn't need.
No, but it's a special picture though.
She doesn't look. It's like it's in the style of these. It's in that vein.
Very exciting. Very exciting. So I can't see it, Joni, so I don't know what I look like. Apart from being confident, I look incredibly healthy and handsome, and sort of somebody that everybody will love. There you go. Is it still there?
No, it's gone.
Thank God.
She's laughing though. She's really enjoyed it.
Yeah, more merchandise. I ran 10 kilometers today.
Well done. That's incredible.
I need a
that is brilliant. Well done.
running vest or something. Chris,
someone's asked me.
Yes. Yes.
Do you want to?
Yeah. Chris on YouTube says, Paul, just to clarify, in your opinion, are you saying all independents are conservatives in disguise?
Not necessarily. So what I'm saying is, locally, we've had a lot of independent MPs who've always claimed to be independent and anti-Labour, and they've often claimed that they were actually real Labour. If you dig down deep into their soul, they're real Labour, but what Labour really was supposed to be before Tony Blair and what have you. But a lot of those people, and not all, are saying now that they are definitely pro Boris Johnson. They are pro this Tory government, and I think a lot of them just like. We're in an area where Labour have traditionally won, and some people join the Labour Party just to win. They don't have Labour values whatsoever. I know this. Everyone on this call knows this. They join there because they think, well, if I've got a Labour badge on, that means I'm likely to be elected. And they don't have a clue about the party. They don't have a clue about politics, and a lot of them are apolitical. They don't even have any political opinions whatsoever. But the Tories, who don't want to join the Labour Party, who just want to, and maybe some people who do believe in conservatism, join the Labour Party, maybe, but most of them don't. And most of them say, actually, I'm deep down in my soul, I'm working class, I'm this, I'm that. But I'm going to stand as an independent because the Labour Party have let us all down. And they'll say this for years and years and years. And then when it comes to it, when a Tory's in charge, they'll be the biggest cheerleader, and that's what we've seen locally. So nationally, it's completely different. It could be completely different. Some independents will be definite independents. Some independents are these kind of false independents.
There are a number of. I'm sorry about the feedback on here. I can't understand what's happening. There's many other people who are independents. A lot of the people who joined the Labour Party hoping for advancement, they're keen members for a few years, and then when we say no, you can't be mayor, we're going to make this person mayor, they suddenly find out that the Labour Party is corrupt and full of bullies and dreadful people, and they leave on a point of principle and they become independents because we didn't give them what they wanted. But there is another kind of independents as well who joined the Labour Party, and they were just not prepared to follow the Labour whip. They weren't prepared to do and live within the party structures. And being a member of the Labour Party, there are times when to stay in the Labour Party, you've just got to button it and put up your hand and go with the group. And they won't do that. So they leave, and they are often the best politicians in town, because when it comes to it, the Labour in principle, they're they vote Labour in elections, and they support the Labour Party, but they demand an independent voice, and they have their say, and sometimes it's very critical of the Labour administration. Those people are fantastic opposition. I have a very poor opinion of many opposition councillors. Some of them who sit there for 10 years and don't say a thing, and then tell you that they want to be the mayor. Some of them are very poor quality, but there are some independent politicians who are absolutely spot on, and they are part of the backbone of a good tradition of parochial politics that we must not lose, and require our respect.
Chris has asked me again as well. Yeah, I'll be really quick on that one. I might have misspoke and said MPs when I didn't mean to. I meant to say councillors. If I've said MPs, I could think of a few Tory MPs like that over the last few years who were in the Labour Party. I'll mention Ian Austin, who actively campaigned against the Labour Party. He had a Twitter spat with me one day, the strange man that he is, and I was like, it was a kind of. He was mentioned in passing between me and I was talking to a friend on Twitter who, it turns out to have been maybe not a great friend, but that's beside the point. He was searching for his name on. Apparently, he does this. He searches for his own name on Twitter, and then him and his friends just ganged up on me because I'd said that when he was screaming at Corbyn behind him, shouting "You're a disgrace" while he was addressing Parliament. It was about the Iraq war, whether the Iraq was an illegal war, and he was stood up behind Corbyn screaming at him, "You're a disgrace, you're a disgrace." And I said, look, Corbyn probably should have disciplined him for that. I thought Jeremy Corbyn should have taken a firm line and said, you can't talk in Parliament like that towards your leader. You can't stand up and scream, "You're a disgrace." And Ian Austin and his friends decided to try and bully me on Twitter, which was bizarre, considering like about 6 people had seen the comment in the world until he brought it up. But he actively campaigned against Labour, which, it doesn't, he has his reasons. I believe his reasons are because he supports the Conservative Party in principle, and there are other people who are in that boat as well. He'd probably disagree. He might start trolling me again. Maybe he's got voice recognition for his name, and have a look there. And he's a lord now, isn't he? So he was given his peerhood by Boris Johnson because he actively campaigned against the Labour Party during the election. Who would do that? Which Labour member would do that? I can't bring myself to think it. In order to get the Conservatives in. Maybe like a more socialist thing, maybe I could understand that, but there's far too many people far too comfortable with the establishment, with being Conservatives within the Labour Party. So.
Jake is absolutely aghast at the idea that anybody could bully Paul. This obviously proves that Ian Austin is a terrible human being.
They try. They're very unsuccessful with the bullying, but that's taken years of practice.
Yeah, definitely independents are a mixed bag. The thing people need to realise is that if you've got an independent candidate, you've got to put the work into researching them and talking to them to really drill down what they actually believe, and then appreciate the fact that once they are elected, there is nobody to hold them to account. There is no disciplinary process that will be put into place. The council will not remove a councillor who's been elected unless they do some really bad illegal stuff. And they're found guilty. So that's something to think about. We've got a funny situation in Shildon where we've got this new party spring up called Shildon and Dean Valley Independent Party, which is populated entirely by Labour Party members who were so dysfunctional that they couldn't work within the Labour Party. So they've just decided to set up their own party, full of people who are terrible to work with. So I'm just...
That sounds awesome.
That's a fun meeting. If I'm ever having a bad meeting, I think about how terrible it would be to be at that meeting. The screen's gone black.
It's back. It's back. I fixed it.
Okay.
Can I interrupt at that point as well, and just warn people against? Have you noticed how many people? So here's the idea that we are against centralism, for devolution, and then in the northeast, and particularly during lockdown, we've become very polarized around our own society, our own community. And so have you noticed how many political groups are now naming themselves after their local area, and it wins them brownie points? And so they're calling them, we are the Shildon Independents, we are the Northeast Party, and sort of, and it's simply a trick to fool people that somehow they give more of a damn about the Northeast than the Labour Party, sort of because we're the Northeast Party. And sort of just watch out for that. It's just the playing games with your mind.
They are, yeah. One of the things they said in there, they've set up, they've done a bit of campaigning, and they said there are 25 independent councillors in County Hall. Have I frozen?
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah.
Still here. Trying to say that therefore the independent bloc is like a potential opposition to the Labour group, but that's not how independent bloc that try and get all of the independents to vote the same way, and I think you will find that you will struggle. Oh dear. Anyway, anybody else seen any other comments they want to bring up? It's probably getting time for us to wind up anyway.
Have we not had a load of Thatcher comments yet?
I
thought there would be at least some like proper hate.
Hate ones.
Yeah, like Thatcher can go fuck herself.
we did
Don't
it.
mince your words there, Stuart. I
No.
love it.
Panel in 1984 there.
First F-bomb in the history of socialist think tank there, Stuart. But you know, like if you're gonna do it, then it has to be on that one. I think.
It was for Thatcher.
If you're gonna do it for Thatcher.
You see, did you hear Tosh McDonald say, I hate Thatcher so much, I set my alarm clock an hour earlier in the morning so I can hate her a little bit more. And that was funny.
On It's a Sin, the pissing in the coffee.
Yeah, that was brilliant. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was really good.
We haven't seen it yet.
Chris likes our comments, which is good. Right, I think what we could do is we've got a couple of minutes left. Would anyone like to see our little "It's About Hope" video, and then people could make comments on it live, which would be really nice and really appreciated, and see how many names you can recognise in there. We'll just have to make sure this actually works. But...
Do you know what just dawned on me earlier on though? Stuart's not in it.
Neither's John. Neither's Barbara.
I didn't ask John though, because I didn't know if he'd want to be in a pure socialist thing, because he's a democratic socialist like the Labour Party. But I asked Stuart, Did you send me a video, Stuart?
Oh.
Oh, okay, so it's not my fault then. Good, okay. I thought I'd missed you out. I can't imagine me missing that.
We also got a little apology from Ray Goodspeed today because I was rubbish at organising him because I didn't give him a deadline. So.
Oh.
Yeah, but we've got some amazing people in there. So
leave the organising to me.
Shall we go and then we'll come back for a minute and then.
Yeah, everyone should watch it. It's really lovely.
Here we go. Oh no, we'll go back. Because I need to make it big. I don't know why that didn't work. Continue talking. Sorry, I was trying to do something really clever. No, are we not going to talk?
Waiting on you.
No, please don't wait on me. I'm trying to fix something. I'm trying to make something work.
Let's raise the scarlet standard high.
Nice.
Folds will. I always feel like doing that in meetings when we're just waiting for people to vote. Just like, I will just sing us a song, shall I?
Yeah. So, Laura, will you tell us a little bit about the history of this?
Of the video?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I can do. There's not really a great deal to tell. We knew we wanted to do sort of an advert and something a bit special just to say what we were about. So actually Paul had the idea and he's like, oh, how are we going to do this? And I just messaged everybody who'd been on our shows and said, please do this. And surprisingly, the majority of them were back to me immediately. I'm like, yeah, of course I will. And then we spent a while cutting it together and making it look better, and we had to find some music and everything, and it just, I don't know, it's been a real team effort, and it does take a lot of work to do little things like this. I thought it would be quite easy but we're just grateful for everybody who had a bit of input in it, and I think we're going to probably have to do another one because there's so many other amazing people we've spoken to and still so many messages we want to get out, but this has got to be the initial message for Socialist Think Tank, I think.
Okay, well, I think I may be okay to play it, so if it works, then let's hope it does. No, it's not. What is socialism?
It's the antithesis of greed.
It isn't about reds.
We will do it properly this time.
I can hear it.
What is socialism?
It's the antithesis of greed.
It isn't about reds under the bed.
It isn't about taking something away from you. It isn't about nationalising your nana.
Socialism is about giving power to communities.
Not propping up a system designed by the wealthy for the wealthy.
It's about rewarding people for what they really contribute.
Where a fair day's work earns a fair day's pay.
Not paying massive salaries to those who contribute nothing.
But standing up to those who get all the spoils because they were born into power.
It's about creating a system where nobody gets left behind.
Where we can work together to build something we can all be proud of.
It's about health.
It's about happiness.
It's about fairness.
It's about equality.
And taking care of those who need us most.
It's about everybody working together to create a better society.
Where nobody is left behind.
It's about listening to one another.
Supporting one another.
It isn't just about you.
It isn't just about me.
It's about us.
It's about hope.
It's about
hope.
It's about hope.
About hope.
Hey, so we're back.
Oh, lovely.
Yes, we've spotted Jamie, we've spotted Mish. Yeah, I was on it with my fancy microphone.
I love that your Chloe's on it as well, John. Oh, you're muted. Got to see it.
I think that for me was the the thing about Corbyn, that just for those years, you had hope. You know, you had hope that we were going to become a party that actually changed the world in a meaningful way, and sort of and that for me has just died since he's gone. And you know that I wasn't Thatcher, I wasn't a Corbynite, but the fact of the matter is that since he's gone, no, I wasn't a Thatcher. So since he's gone, there's been this sort of big hiatus. And I miss that terribly.
But you know, there's something else happening here. There's something really important happening. So you've got things like the political education project, which is absolutely outstanding, and people are learning about what socialism is and what it means, and we are combating that Reds under the bed image. Now, a lot of people probably don't want to hear this, and a lot of people want to probably look back to like 2017 and think, you know, a few more votes and Corbyn would have been in. They'd have thrown him out in a year. You know, within a year, those MPs would have turned on him. They would have called for another election. He didn't have the base behind him. And, you know, if you look at movements that work, you need the people with you. This is never going to work top down. It simply isn't. We need everyone coming with us. And that's what it's about. And that's why we are trying to spread a message of hope, a message that people can have this like kind of control over their lives and this really positive experience of life by working together. The system, which is the electoral system, that's not just going to give things to us. We are not going to get there through the electoral system. We're going to need to do something better. So we need people to all get on board with this, all support one another and really start to live in a socialist way. And I'm not talking about them like having to all become vegans or all become like, you know, or make sacrifices in their life. What I'm talking about is people supporting one another, getting together, backing one another up, exactly what we say in the video there. That's what it's about, because we aren't going, like, even people who want to win and had that hope through the Corbyn era, it was probably never going to work anyway as much as we all wanted it to. You know, it was still the establishment, it was still Westminster. Look at how like Corbyn had to behave as the leader of the Labour Party. He had to try and appease the Labours and the Remainers, when actually that wasn't really the issue we should have been talking about. We should have been talking about all sorts of other things. And you see what the EU have done this week. Like, the EU are a pretty nasty neoliberal organisation in many ways. It's just like, when you want reform, you don't ask the Tories to do it. You know, that's probably the main reason I was a Remainer. I want to see the EU massively change. But, you know, when's that going to happen? You know, we need to start leading by example and have a socialist society. And at some point, you might see a little bit of an uprising against us. When we do that, you might see something like the military not being particularly happy about the workers having power. These are things that we need to consider. But sorry, I just went on a little one there, didn't I?
Go. It is definitely time to wind up now. So, shall we say goodbye? Stuart, say goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Say goodbye.
Bye. See you soon.
Bye. I'll say goodbye.
Bye-bye.
John and Barbara, say goodbye.
Bye.
Bye-bye, everybody. Thanks for coming. Remember to share this. Get people on board. Like Paul says, we've got a really great, loyal viewer base. It does feel like we are a family now. Comments on here were saying that they want another version of that video with the listeners for this show saying the words. I think that's a fantastic idea.
We'll do that.
Yes, we'll do that. Yes. Okay. Send us your email addresses. If you email us at Paul, what's our email address?
Just do contact at email.socialistthinktank.com.
Email us at that. We will give you the script to read out to your phone and send back to us. And yeah, I love that idea. Let's do that. Yeah, brilliant.
Do that. Yes, but we need more people. You need to share this with your friends, share this with your little lefty crew. Let's grow this family. Okay, so I will see you all next week. Bye.
See you next week. We'll see you Saturday as well on Socialist Think Tank on Socialist Night Live. And yeah. And Laura's Social Ties on Thursday. Who's on?
Don't ask me that. I don't know. I can't remember.
You do, because you've got to do the interview this week.
Oh, it's
still not
Kate Flannery
recorded.
From Orgreave,
Truth and Justice. That's massive. Yes. And we've got Christine Linderoth, who's she's going to be our first international guest on Saturday, which is going to be amazing. It's really good. I've already done the interview and it's absolutely incredible. And she's such a inspirational figure and has so much respect for the Northeast and what we're doing here. So that's going to be good. And on Saturday on Socialist Night Live, I think we have got someone from, what was it, Laura?
Why do you ask me these things on the spot, Paul? Honestly, hang on. Somebody from Reclaim Democracy Recall Conference is going to come on and have a chat to us on Saturday night.
So that's come from people from the CLP representatives on the National Executive Committee of the Labour Party, hasn't it? So they've asked us if they'll come on, and our answer was, of course, yes. So that will be really, really good. Okay.
Wow.
Right.
Okay, bedtime, everybody. Get snuggled up.
Definitely need to let them go now. Okay, bye.
See you later.
Bye. Keep the red flag flying.